second speaker this morning, we moved him from the afternoon and brought him down the spot here this morning again because Dr. Jim Drake is not with us. Phil Cardoso. Dr. Phil, you guys met him all last year. New kid on the block, no more. He's on the road running, and Dr. Phil, of course, hails from Brazil and did his DVM down in Brazil, did a little practicing work down there, and came up to Illinois and did his PhD with Jim Drakely. Now he is our extension dairy specialist and dairy research. We're very happy to have him with us. He's a great young man. You got to get to know him. If you haven't yet, you got to get to know him. Dr. Phil is going to visit about transitioning with efficiency. So, Dr. Phil Cardoso, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Can everyone hear me good? Yep. Not too loud. Jim, everything okay in there? Okay, still alive. So today I'm going to kind of I'm going to continue a little bit more on what we talked last year, and I have some other data here that I'm going to show to you, okay? First of all, something that is really interesting that last year I was browsing and look at some kind of research, and some really interesting research came out, and they asked all over the US, okay? And they ask people on, okay, what is your generic term for sweetened carbonated beverage, okay? How do you call this? When I was young in Brazil, you know, they always taught me, soft drink. You go to the US and you ask for a soft drink, and they are gonna give you Coke, Pepsi, and then you just decide which one you want. My surprise was that when the result came, nobody speaks soft drink in the US. So if you can see around Missouri, they would call more soda. Around here, you guys would use more pop. So that's kind of interesting. So throughout this year, I've been, you know, adequating some of my terms and the usage of some of the terms that I've learned so far. A little bit of background for you guys that don't know me. I come from Brazil. And Mike was talking about soybeans and be scared about the soybean prices in South America and production. And especially from Brazil, Brazil is a huge soybean producer, but this year, something is happening in Brazil. Who knows what is it? World Cup. Nobody's going to look at the soybeans this year. Don't worry about it. This year is soccer. Nobody is looking at soybeans or wheat. Don't worry about it, okay? This is going to be a huge thing in Brazil. This was one of the biggest players in Brazil, Pelé, really famous, more than 1,000 goals. And those ones are the big players now. This is from Brazil, Neymar. We don't need to talk about the Argentinian guy. That's Messi, really good. But these guys would compare to quarterbacks here in the U.S. So they are making $10 million a year. A little bit less than what our quarterback, the Omaha guy, is making $18 million, I guess, per year. So they are really big players, and this is going to be huge in Brazil, so don't worry about the soybeans. So after that, I came to the U.S. That's my office, the sixth window over there, and I can look to the Morrow plots. This is the Morrow plots with the place in the 1800s, the first place that discovered that fertility in the soil has something to do with corn productivity. That was done in Illinois back in the 19th century. So that's really pleased I can see that field. And I came here and did my PhD, and I'm always interested in trying to keep understanding what's going on with this cow, okay? The transition cow, or the cow that is having a calf, and a lot of problems are happening. Just a little recap on that, what we want from there. You don't want cows to get sick around calving, right? You don't want to pull calves, you don't want to treat with calcium, you don't want to give glucose, anything else. And you want them to produce milk. The thing that we are adding now is what we want is, we want them to be pregnant as well. But what's going on? So in the 90s, the early 2000s, a lot of focus was in this. Let's treat ketosis, let's prevent ketosis, let's make them produce a lot of milk, but there is no link with the reproduction. Okay, so what we are saying is that whatever you do in the transition period will have an effect in the reproduction of the cow, in the fertility. And that's some of the research that we did that also started showing that, and plays a little bit with the negative energy balance. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, the transition period, talk about efficiency, some of the control energy diets, about the straw, and then we're going to wrap up with some take-home messages. When I talk about transition period, you guys know already, 3 weeks before, 3 weeks after calving. Why is important? Remember, the cow is not giving milk, and she has a calf inside. All of the sudden, she's giving milk and no calf anymore. So you start thinking what's going on with the body of the cow and all the metabolism. And I'm going to repeat in the end, but if you need to get something from this presentation is in and out, okay? Whatever you're putting in and whatever is coming out of the cow, that's where you have to balance. That's where you have to figure out how to make that happen. We are looking at, and I'm going to talk about one of the experiments we did on energy. So the cows, they're eating energy and they're putting out energy. If you have that balanced, you're going to have a good repro, less health disorders, and you're going to be able to produce a lot of milk. If you're not doing a good job there, then you have a problem. And I'm going to talk about, but keep in mind it's in and out. This is what's happening in all the cows in your herd. They have a lactation curve. They start really low in, they are not being able to eat. DMI is the dry matter intake here. And you know they start losing body weight. So this is happening to all the cows, okay, in all the farms. Some farms, some cows, this is really drastic. You know, they're producing a lot of milk and they're not eating really good. And then that's when you have the problems in the cows, when you get to the extremes. But all the cows, they're experiencing this. So the cells in the cow, in the mammary gland, in the liver, in the muscle, everything is experiencing that change. And they have to cope with that. Because of that, because of all this mismatch here in the beginning of the lactation, that's why then you start having a lot of problems. And then they figure out, hey, most all of the problems that we have in cows, they happen at this period here. So we should start researching and everything else. That's how it started. This is a really nice research done in 1998 by Kelton. And what he did is he surveyed US and Canada and said, hey, those are the incidences or prevalences, if you will, of some of the common diseases in the dairy industry. And there is a cost associated with that on just the loss of milk and calling the vet to do some of the procedures. That was 1998, okay? How about nowadays? Are we getting better? This is the data from USDA. They do a survey again, 2007. So pretty much what we did a good job was in the milk fever, okay? The scientific community would agree that in milk fever, we were able to reduce those numbers of cows. We started doing DCAD. We started, before calving, we started understanding on the potassium. So we started measuring potassium in the hay that we are feeding our dry cows, the role of magnesium. However, the other items, we didn't get it, even if we didn't get worse in LVAs or other problems. So we were focusing on a lot of the diseases and the problems. However, we were able to help you guys with one, milk fever. The rest is still out there. And there is a lot of variation farm to farm. Some of the farms, of course, they pick it up and they have numbers much better than this one. But we know there is still a lot of things that need to be done to improve that. And I'm adding here that we should be checking for our preg rates, okay? Because I'm talking about the transition period has an effect in reproduction. For example, this is the average, 17%, okay? Do you guys think that is good or is it okay or? It's low, yeah. So we had, last November, Hordes Derman gives a prize to the best herds in the US reproduction-wise. Their yearly average was close to 30% preg rate, okay? We usually go to single digits in summer here. So usually it's really common to have 9%, 8% preg rates during the summer years. That's the tough time for pregnancy. And remember, I'm talking about preg rate, not conception rate. So if I use an OviSync protocol, for example, generate prostaglandin generate, and I breed the cows. Or if I don't use an OviSync, I just wait for heat, my conception rate is the same. I don't change conception rate. If I do a protocol in 100 cows, usually 35, 40 will get pregnant from that protocol. If I watch heat in 100 cows, I will have the same 40, 35 cows pregnant. However, the speed that I get those cows pregnant, then is different. And then obviously kick ass and get you breeding a lot of cows because you don't have to wait for heats. In a good farm, what, 50% of heat detection, that's what we see. So you're missing 50% of the heats that are happening. With the Ovsync protocol or all those protocols, you don't miss that. You just go and get cows pregnant. So we say that at least at 20% your farm should be running. Average year, you should have at least 20%. That would be the first goal at least. But you see that the US, we still have a lot of, we still have room to improve over there. So some of the goals is, of course, you want to meet the nutrients for the cow and for the calf. You want to prevent the diseases, and you want to prepare the cow to produce a lot of milk and to be fertile or get pregnant, okay, to keep the circle going. And we want to do that in a way that, okay, you're not spending a lot of time, a lot of money, sorry. We know that a lot of those metabolic disorders, they happen when the cows are not eating or they are putting in, not so much, but they are putting out a lot, again, in and out. We've seen that feeding cows with corn silage, or we are calling here a high energy diet, but perhaps it's the diet that you guys are feeding. You know, don't think that the high energy is something that we put sugar on it. No, it's just like a commercial, that some of the commercial farms would be using this high energy diet or the corn salad. I'm going to mention about the levels in a few. So what we are thinking is that, because remember that I showed last year that the cows eating the high straw diets or the control diets, they get better repro after calving. And they had less diseases and they were in a better shape. What we believe is that, and some of you already heard about this insulin resistance, okay? And insulin resistance is not more than something similar to diabetes, okay? So the body of the cow is not responding in the same way to whatever she eats. She eats, goes to the rumen, you have the VFAs, and then you have the glucose, but the cells in the body are not assimilating as well as healthy cows, okay? So we are saying that cows around calving or before calving, they are developing a kind of, we're going to call diabetes, but the right term would be insulin resistance. And that is what is causing the problems in these cows eating the high energy. That was our hypothesis. So we put together a trial, and what we wanted to understand is that, okay, the high fiber diets or the control energy makes them eat what they need. And we put there the straw because then you limit the cow and what she can eat, okay? The problem is if we give a common diet with corn silage, she's going to eat more than what she needs. But what happens if I give the same high level of energy diet, but I say, I'm going to give you only 80% of what you need? It's just like, you know, I have a plate here, and I need 2,200 calories, but I'm going to give me 80% only from that 2,200. And let's see how it goes. So I want to understand, we wanted to understand is it the fiber giving the cow the benefit, or is the low energy that is actually giving the cow the benefit? Okay? So that was some of the things that we wanted to understand as I just talked about. So we set up a pilot trial where we have 27 cows in total, okay? They were dried off 50 days before calving, and they had that diet throughout the whole period. So we're not doing far-off close-up. We have one diet throughout the period. The catch here is that any cow that had DA, RP, metritis, we didn't use it. We took it out from the research. We just wanted healthy cows. We want to understand how the cows are working, the healthy ones. This is our setup at the farm, our research farm. And this is pretty much what I'm talking about. So we have one group of cows, 80% the same diet. These cows here, high energy, and restricted, that's what the RE, they had the same diet. One, I let them eat whatever they wanted, and the other group I just restricted. Every week, You do the body weight of the cows and you check for how long they are in gestation, and you can calculate how much the requirements are. And then you just say, okay, just 80% of that. And this one was the high fiber diet, okay? The diet, they look kind of pretty similar, no statistical difference. However, this was different. And this would be, okay, this is a scientific notation, but it would be 0.61, 0.62 megacals per pound. And this would be 72 megacals per pound. So if you go back and look to your diets, where are you guys? That's the difference we made. We think you should be around here, around 0.61, 0.62, and not around 0.72. And why I say that? So what we did was, we want to understand, are these cows developing diabetes? And the kind of test that we did is a glucose tolerance test and an insulin challenge, okay? So before calving, and we wanted to know really around calving. So that's 8 days before calving, and around 8 days after calving, we did this one. An insulin challenge, 6 days before calving and after calving. So that's kind of the design. Glucose tolerance test, insulin challenge, cows calve, insulin challenge, glucose tolerance test. And let me explain what is this. This is pretty much, you have the cow and the glucose tolerance test. You guys have those bottles of glucose, right? When cows have ketosis, you have to treat them. We just got the bottle and put in the vein of the cow and give a bolus or a bunch of glucose to the cow. 2 days later, we got insulin and we inject in the vein of the cow, a bunch of insulin as well. Everything, of course, according to protocols. And what we did was, this is the infusion, or when I'm giving the bolus. 3 time points before, and then a lot of time points after that, I collected blood sample from that cow to check for the glucose and insulin tests. By the way, this is really similar to lactose tolerance tests. Is anyone here lactose intolerant? You are? I'm not sure how was your test, but I have a friend that he is, but he didn't know about it. So he was, eating chocolate, eating cheese, and man, he had to run to the bathroom. It was kind of, discomfort, but he didn't know exactly about it. The way to find out, the doctor said to him, hey, go to the lab, then they give you a cup full of lactose, okay? And they say, okay, we're going to collect your blood now, drink this, and we're going to collect your blood later. That, he said it was terrible. Because you have the pure dose of lactose, he had to run to the bathroom, was really nasty. That's kind of, not to be mean, but it's kind of similar what we are doing here. This is some of the blood parameters, and we didn't have any differences among calcium, magnesium, BHBA, before and after calving. They were all the same, all the cows, no differences. The other thing is I don't have here is milk production, intakes, they're all the same, okay? So what I have was this, and let me explain here really step by step. This is the glucose in the blood of the cow, okay? This is the time point. So here I gave the infusion, and it's 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes. This is, for example, the restricted diet throughout the time. When I shade this below the green line, I have an area, and that's what I'm showing you here. Okay? So this and this is the same. I'm just showing differently. The area or throughout the time. So what I'm doing here, okay, I'm giving insulin for the cow. So insulin, that's the same thing that diabetic population needs to get. That is what? That to put glucose inside the cells. So what happens is that when I give the insulin, cows need to take glucose from the blood to the cells. That's the job. When I give that insulin on time 0, look at these cows, the green ones and the black line here, and they have the less area. They were able to take the glucose faster from the blood when compared to the cows having the high energy diets. So those cows eating the 72, 74 megacals per pound, they were slower or they were less sensitive to the insulin. Okay, so even though that they are eating and they are getting the glucose in the blood, now they have the problem that they cannot put the glucose inside the cells to do all the metabolism and produce all the milk and produce all the things that the cells need to do. Interestingly enough, the control energy and the restricted energy, they behave the same. So if I do a high fiber diet, or if I just go there and give 80% of what she needs, I get the same results. However, we know, and you guys know much better than I, what's easier to do. It's easier just to drop feed in front of her and let her figure out how much she needs, or you want to be measuring and feeding just 80% for that cow individually. That's almost impossible for you guys to do. And the other thing after calving that we did is now a little bit different. The same glucose in the blood we are measuring, but now we gave a bunch of glucose, just like she ate a bunch of M&Ms and spiked the glucose in her blood. Again, the cows with the control energy and the restricted energy diets, they behave similarly, and they were able to take that glucose faster from the blood than cows that were getting the high energy. Okay, and even there is a shift here. You see that these cows, they had some time to get started. That is different than those two cows, not two cows, there's two groups here, okay? So it's telling me that those cows really, they are developing kind of a diabetes, kind of an insulin resistance, and maybe that's why you're seeing the benefits of the high fiber diets around parturition. That may be one of the things, but not only or not because of the fiber itself, but because you are giving the energy she needs, and that's it. You're not giving more energy to them. And it's really interesting this, how can you do something before calving? Nowadays there are some products that you can give for chicken. You give 3 days for the chicken and you're gonna see the effect throughout the whole life of the chick. And I mean, that's not too much, you know, broilers like 42 days maybe, but that's some of the companies, a lot of products that are working now in the priming thing. Can I do something here that's gonna change genetically the sensitivity, and then I'm gonna have the benefits throughout the time? That's kind of the things that you are doing around transition period, and you are getting the effect at least in the beginning of the lactation or until she gets pregnant. This is really important. Okay, I'm talking about the diets and everything else, but feeding cows, and not just feeding cows, but watching, trying to get what they are eating is really important. Just understanding how much they are eating is also really important. So that was one of the research on the metabolism. Now, another thing that I think is going to be interesting that we may think on the lactation period, but maybe in the transition period is going to be interesting, or people are going to start looking at, is the direct fed microbials. Okay, this is the definition. What is it? So it's a live bacteria can be. Before they were called probiotics. So probiotics was because you have a population of bacteria. You give this, and then the good bacteria take over, and now they are ruling the rumen. Okay, so that was probiotic, pro-life. And that's a lot of things, but pretty much this is a research that we are finishing up now. So I'm going to show some partial data, but we gave this probiotic, and even the student that did the research, Loon, is in back there. You can visit with him about it. Actually, he threw out a barbecue on the 19th, right? You just finished. But the point we wanted to see is from before calving, so 21 days before calving, until 150 days in milk, we were giving this DFM to cows. And one group, we didn't give anything. And one of the interesting things was feed efficiency. We were measuring feed efficiency. This is, by the way, a slide that I hacked from the webinar from Hutchins. Who is watching know about the webinars, the Hordes? If you go to the Hordes Dermon webpage, there is a little thing there. There is a Hordes webinar. You click, it's all archived. So if you want to see, that was last Monday. Dr. Hutchins was talking about feed efficiency, okay? And when you talk about feed efficiency, you have all these ways of talking about. Is pound of milk over pound of what the cows are eating is energy-corrected milk, is fat-corrected milk, what you're talking about. But we can use a bunch of notations. But what we use, and it's more scientifically accepted, is the energy-corrected milk. So how much she ate, pounds, and how much energy-corrected milk she put out. So it's pretty much energy in, energy out. That you are accounting for the protein and the fat of the milk that the cow is producing. And what we saw in this trial is that the feed efficiency of the energy-corrected milk over the intake of the cows, throughout the lactation, but it's specifically around calving, those cows, they were able to convert more, okay? So the feed efficiency of the cows receiving the DFM, they were able to convert more. We are still finishing up this data. There are a lot of other things that we analyze on here, but just by the point of helping digestion in the rumen, maybe one of the things that they were able to use more of the nutrients from the feed, okay? One of the things, remember, that I've mentioned about, we can measure ketosis throughout the blood. So we did that on days 5 and 14 after calving. We went to all these cows and we measured with the precision X-ray and everything that was more than 1.2. We said, okay, this cow is ketotic. Okay, she has ketosis. Just a little bit why we did that. There's another good webinar made by Otzel also. And this is a paper that he published on data from Wisconsin and New York, where they went more than 1,000 cows. And they measure, okay, the BHBA with the precision extra. And that's what they found, that around here you have a spike, around here you have a spike. And that comes back to the literature that, okay, you have type 1 or you have type 2 ketosis. Type 2, that's the one that we catch around calving. Type 1 is something happening after 30 days. And we have this whole table here that's telling you what's the difference, what's going on. Pretty much that's the one that happens after calving. That's pretty much because you're having your fat cows. But let's say you don't have your fat cows, but you're seeing high BHBAs, probably it's something else that's going on. Maybe you have type 1 ketosis. And here there's a whole distribution of that. So we were interested in the type 2 ketosis, that this one happened here. So we collected blood on the 5 and the 14. So if I would tell you to select a day to check in your farm, I would tell these 2 days here, that's where the prevalence is higher. So that's where you have more chances of catching your cows with ketosis, okay? This is one of the data. So what I'm doing here is I have the control cows, and I have the cows that were getting this DFM. And here I'm telling all the cows are healthy, they have less than 1.2 millimoles of BHBA. Ketotic, I'm calling everyone that it has more, because it's proven that those levels are associated with disease. And you can see that cows with the DFM, they had much less ketosis. Okay, so it's something that is telling me this bug that I'm giving is helping the cow to digest something, and it's improving the energetic status of the cow. There's just something to be looking at, that probably we're going to be seeing a lot of engineering in these bacteria to help the cows. Another interesting thing is that I've mentioned about input and output is this. And this is a really nice sentence from Gordon Jones. Gordon Jones, that's the one that, when he was in practice, he started all these controlled diets or high fiber diets, and then Drakely came and put all the science on it. But he said cows don't normally just stand around. They're going to be laying down, they're going to be drinking, and they're going to be eating. So if putting in or eating is so important, I think we have a challenge that is to understand how much time they are spending. I'm not saying that you're going to put cameras there to tell me how long are they drinking or something like that, but eating, I think it's important. And I think that you guys need to know how much your cows are eating. And one challenge that I'm going to give you to you guys is this one, that how our brain works, or our collaborators or employees work. So we have all these number here, and I have all these symbols. So you guys can memorize now, okay? And the symbols and the numbers, and I'm going to ask you, which number is this one?
Is it the same as yesterday?
Yeah, you cannot tell. Come on. And we were betting that who gets it right, Mike would buy a piece of pie, but he lost so many already, so
right.
I think he's out of the bet.
9216.
And that is correct.
Are you serious?
Where is Mike? He needs to pay a pie here. But that's supposed to be really difficult, right? Not everyone catched, and usually nobody catches. So how about if I tell you like this? It's the same, okay? But now the only thing that I did, I put a pattern to it. So if you see, you have this, okay, this is 9. If you go like this, okay, this is 2. If you go like this, this is 1. If you go like this, oh, this is 6. But now if I give you 5 seconds, you draw it out and then you can tell, right? So what's going on here? Why I showed you before and you're not able to do it, and why now you are able to do it? What's going on with our brain that helps that? And that's correct, 9216. The thing is our brain catches patterns. Okay, we are pretty good at that. If you see graphs and things moving, we are really good at that. However, numbers, memorizing, we are not that good. So the challenge that I'm putting is, how about if I tell you that we need to stimulate people also to think in patterns, okay? So this is one of the trials that we were doing at the lots in our farm. So we don't have the ability to check intakes cow by cow. They are not tied up all the day. So what we did, we checked the intakes on the lots. So every day, the feeder would come there, feed cows. Before the next feeding, the student would go there with the skids here, just scoop all the feed, measure, and divide by the number of the cows. Okay, that's how much my cows are eating in this lot. That's how much my cows are eating in this lot. And you have a diet for those lots, right? And your nutritionist is thinking, okay, I'm formulating my diet for your cows to eat, I don't know, 52 pounds of feed, of dry matter. That's what I expect, and that's why we are balancing for. However, what do you guys see here? Don't you see a pattern that is going down? So we can catch that. So at this point here, my diet is totally wrong. Here, good. Probably they're producing even more than what I expected. But here I'm having a problem. And I'm checking this, and if you can see here, you start getting warm, right? So probably what you're catching here is the fact of summer or getting not so much comfort, cows stop eating. So can we add one more feeding? Instead of feeding 2 times, 3 times a day, can we do something? But then we take action. But first of all, we have to understand what's going on. And one of the challenges that I give is, this can be a control chart in the way of, you can add one standard deviation and check. And let me explain, because yesterday I think I didn't do a good job explaining the one standard deviation thing. So if your nutritionist tells you that 52 pounds, that's what your cows in that lot needs to eat, and now we start checking every day or every week. I don't know. It depends on how can you do it. Every day, or if for 2 days the cows move away from their standard deviation, something is wrong. By the way, do you know the variation in your herd? Mike, I think he's going to talk a little bit. Do you know today cows are eating 52. How about tomorrow? How about the day after? How much is varying? Really good herds are around ½ pound, 1 pound. Really good herds. How much is in your farm? Do you know that? What is the variation? Why cows are eating 52 pounds on one day? Next day they are eating 50? What's going on? But first, I'm telling you, let's measure. And if you measure like this, and you say that, okay, one standard deviation for more than 2 or 3 days, I need to check something's going on. The feeder is not doing a good job, or he forgot something, or someone forgot to check dry matter of the forage, something happened. Standard deviation is this easy calculation here. Really, but this is just to scale a little bit. Excel can do for you in 1 second, less than that. It's pretty much the average, so that lot is, or the average of that lot, you put how much each cow is eating, and you do an average. That's this. And then the value of each cow. This cow in my lot is eating 52. That cow is eating 53. That cow is eating 50. You have an average, and now you're going to know how much is changing. Okay? And this is a better explication. So let's say this is your milk production, or the average your cows are eating, this much. When I'm talking about one standard deviation, that tells me that 84% of my population is in there. Okay? So if by any chance your average that day is going away from one standard deviation, you are falling in 16%. So what's going on that today is happening what's supposed to happen just 16% of the time. And if you go 2 standard deviations, 98% of the things or the population is in there. And that's kind of a little bit of the statistic things that we talk about. But what I'm talking about is if you want to control variation, you have just to look at this. And do you want 98% of the time things to happen the way you want? So then that's why what we say is you put 1 standard deviation here and you put 2 standard deviations. If one day you move away from the 2, something is wrong, because now you're moving really away from your average. Okay? This can be done with your hand in a paper. You put your average that you want. And how are you going to calculate this? My idea is, okay, I tell you, good herds, half a pound, 1 pound. How about if your herd is 5 pounds? You're going to get crazy. You're going to be all over the place. So my recommendation is measure in your herd how much it is and establish a goal. Okay, I'm going to go from 4 to 2 pounds. And what I need to improve is this and that. You're a nutritionist. All the companies here can help you do that. You know, to try to minimize that. For example, in the 80s, Toyota and Honda, they were pretty famous on building good cars. Why was that? Variation was really low. They did everything that was supposed to do. There is even a Toyota management system that was based just in that. So that's just controlling variation, that I think it's a big deal for you guys, but this can be done really easy, okay? And then you establish your goal and you say, this guy, every time that 2 days we move away from 1 standard deviation, you call me. Every time we move away from 2 standard deviation, you call me really fast because something is bad. And then you're avoiding a lot of future problems. So as a take-home message, and now moving from Dr. Phil to this Phil a little bit, input, output. Output, I know it's easy for you guys. You have the milk check, you know the butter fat, you know the protein in the tank. Input, that's the challenge. That I think you guys, we're going to talk about feed efficiency, income over feed costs. Guy, nothing is going to work for you if you don't know how much your cows are eating. You cannot calculate income over feed costs. You cannot calculate feed efficiency. So it can be in a scoop. It can be, in a simple way. But I think you guys, that's important to start knowing that. Okay? So we think that the energy balance or those cows, they're experiencing some kind of diabetes and measure intake and control variation of her cows. One of the things that I want to talk to you guys, we are starting a new program now that is called the Dairy Focus Team, okay? This is a team of students, of grad students and undergrads, and we have also professors and people in industry involved. So Katie here is in the back there, and she is the president of this team. And this team, we got the budget to visit 20 farms in Illinois. So we're going to go, and we're going to, based on the SWOT analysis, on the strength, the weakness, the opportunities, the threats, we visit the farm, we do an analysis, and then we give back this to you guys, okay? So we got the budget to go to 20 farms and help you out with that. The only thing, you just need to register, because I wish we had the budget to do in everything. Part of the budget is coming from IMPA helping out with that. So we want to start this and try to tell you, it can be just to help figure out a way to calculate measure the intakes, can be helping other things. That's going to be a team approach thing. So we have students more towards nutrition, more to repro, management, calf, everything else. So just talk to Katie there, and she can tell you more things about it. That's even some of the things when I talk about the variation, for example. That's a really good question when you're using this, the rumen tags, right? So we are talking about 450, 600, you're talking about 700. Each herd we know it's going to be different. Is it more important to know the average, or it's more important to know how away from that average from that cow we need to watch out because there is a problem? So that's two things. That should I know that it's 500, or should I know that every time that it's 500 but moves to 600, I have a problem? So that's kind of the tricky way that I think we are going to start working on this math and try to give you more alerts in the system. This is the website that I can show you more things. There are some videos there, and we have a Facebook as well, but I'm more than welcome to entertain and have any questions, or I'm going to be around so we can talk as well. Thank you.
Okay, questions for Phil? Any questions?